All right, guys. Now we're done with the announcements, and I want to introduce a really good friend of mine. Honestly, I was like, man, I remember getting to a lock-in when I first met Dom, and he was just like, I felt like honestly a ball of energy. Want to connect with everybody. It was no surprise. It was just you see a lot of this where people come in really excited, and now it's just like I really hope it's real deal, and Dom's done exactly that. It's been so crazy. Like sometimes you want to give people advice, but you're like, but just go do the first two things. He was curious about building like the first time I'd met him. And it's really, really unique to see people that, want to learn and go and do something about it. It's who we want to obviously associate with. It's who we're looking to partner with in business. Dom is from being a valet, from valeting Sean's car to now a top producer, basically bossing Sean's office up, asking him to get on calls and on his podcast, host of Make Your Own Luck podcast. My guy Dom, bro, how are you doing? I want to bring you on, and thank you for taking the time. I know it's late over there. I don't know if you're still at the office. I think that's so sick
Oh
because
yeah.
you're a grinder, bro. I'm gonna have you just first like open up with just letting us know, what was it? I know you were valeting, but give us the details of that. How long were you valeting? I want them to get to know you first, and then we're gonna dive into the sales aspect, and we'll kind of guide them, hopefully getting better. But first, I want them to kind of meet you. So,
Awesome.
Dom,
Can
thanks
you
for
hear me
coming
all
on.
right first off?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you, Diego, for having me on here. I like the music in the beginning. That was some good energy. Um, yes, I am still in the office here. It's a nice spot right in the podcast room. But yeah, starting off, just kind of like what you said, I was valet parking cars, cleaning boats, doing really whatever I could to get by at the time. But I guess I always kind of knew I wanted kind of a better opportunity, something to where your effort actually reflects what you're making. So when Sean came up to the valet, I I was looking for a sales industry. I went into like 7 different interviews. Man, I tried like commercial real estate, yacht sales. I tried it all, and they just weren't the right fit. I always found a problem with them. They either weren't scalable or they were very hard to get into. So when I kind of, took Sean's advice, he kind of told me, take the test. What do you have to lose? You're chasing around cars. So I really took that to heart of like, what do I have to lose? It takes $300 to get your license. And yeah, and that was, I guess, 10 months ago. So since then, we have just been growing every single day, personally, as a team, mentally, and just really getting better.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, I'm going to brag about you a little bit. Like Dom said, that's in 10 months. Like the reason I want to brag about Dom is because I genuinely see, like when I first met Dom, it was like, I know one of my boys, Danny's in here, but Dom, it was like playing with one of my soccer boys back home. I was like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
like when you get to camp and then you're like, you remember we did burpees for the very first time. You're
Yeah.
like,
Oh, yeah.
what are you doing this morning? And I was like, let's just do some burpees. We're gonna get a sweat in. I think some of my people are gonna come and do it with us. And you're like, let's do it. And what I'm trying to get at is, I'm just like us. I was like, yeah, man, go. I remember when we talked about it, I was like, recruiting. We didn't even talk about recruiting because you just gotta get your sales down. You know what I mean? That was the point of the weekend. But you're just normal and just very quickly. I think, guys, how long after our that lock in? Because it's been 10 months now. Did you get your first? Let's just break it down. First 10,000, not even, first $10,000 month.
Well, I think what's crazy is in that lock-in, I was kind of not skeptical, but that was the first time I've ever really gone over in Arizona. Never been in Arizona. I went by myself, didn't know anyone, just going off of Zoom and stuff. And that was the first time I did a telesale. Not because I wanted to as much. I didn't have a car there. So
Yeah.
I was before that I was doing all in home. And to be honest, I was kind of struggling with it. I would book appointments, go there, knock on the door, no one would answer. I give them a call, oh, I'm at work. And it's like, okay, like why'd you make the appointment then? And I was getting really frustrated. I was driving all around town, sometimes like 50 minutes away, just filling up my gas tank, not getting that many sales. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna try something new. So I tried telesales when we were in Arizona. That was the first time. And in those 2 days, I got my first two telesales there. And it kind of showed me that just by trying something that I wasn't too sure about, because in the beginning I thought, oh, okay, to do telesales, you have to know what you're doing. And I was like, I'm not there yet. So I got to start with in-home. But once I realized, okay, I tried something else out and it worked. So it kind of goes to show that you don't know if something works or not until you actually genuinely try it and give it your all. Because those
Right.
lock-ins are no joke. We were dialing from, I don't even know, like 7 a.m. until like 8 p.m. So that's really giving it the best shot, and it really showed that it did work.
Right. And so how long would you say it took until you then broke out? Did you already do 10,000 before then, or were you struggling and then you then did after that?
I would say within a month or two after the lock-in was really when I broke out of the 10,000. Um, and it was tough. I always saw it as like a kind of a high marker of like, man, like that 10,000, like I got to get those double
Right.
digits. But once I surpassed that 10,000, I realized it's very much, I was almost limiting myself by that mindset of, man, that 10,000, that's out of reach. But
Right.
once you surpass that, and then you're like, oh, wait, I really didn't do too much different. I just kind of worked a
Dude.
little bit harder. Is when you realize the sky can truly be the limit with how much you're writing.
Yeah, that's huge because your mindset is a very, very big deal, obviously, with what we do. And
Yeah.
so I can definitely see that. Now, after that, how soon were you starting to tell people about the agency? Was it right there from the weekend?
So it was actually about a month before the lock-in. I feel like that's a good time frame. And I was telling some of the guys that I was valeting with. So mainly it was AJ and Thomas. So they were still valeting. I put in my 2 weeks, I left there, and I was telling them every single day of how it was going. I'd be like, yeah, today was terrible. I
Yeah.
was very honest with them. I was like, today was a rough day. I, made a lot of calls, no sale today, but I was always honest with them. And right when I was going to the lock-in is when they first were getting contracted. So I was like, I understand if you don't want to go. I didn't push too hard. I was like, it's kind of crazy to ask you to fly all the way to Arizona when you're just getting started. I'd rather you start investing in leads and stuff. But right when I figured out about the telesales, I came running back and was like, man, I got it somewhat figured out. Like I know what we're gonna do next. So
Right.
that's who we started with. And to be honest, that's honestly why this agency has grown so much because of those guys that I brought in. Thomas and AJ have been huge, and
Yeah.
your team's only as strong as the people that are in it.
Right.
So it's been really cool.
No, I love that. Desi, did you have a question? I see your hand.
Yeah, I did. I was gonna say, so Dom, when you were new, and obviously you were starting telesales or you were starting in home, when did you realize the correlation with how much you were spending in leads? Like when did you get comfortable spending in leads? How much did you start off spending in leads? And what are
Yeah.
you telling new agents now?
So when I was starting, I always kind of saw the correlation of you want to make more, you have to spend more. I really truly understood that from the start. Um, so when I met Marissa in person for the first time and Tori was there as well, I kind of showed them all my leads. I had a decent amount of leads. I was probably spending about 250 a week from when I started. So I had built up a ton of leads and I was kind of going through it and I'm like, hey, should I buy more leads, whatever? They were looking at how many I had and they're like, you should call through all those again. Like there's some sales in there. I don't think you worked through them hard enough. So I was like, all right, like I'll try that. And by going back through my old leads and my old lead flow, I probably got about 10 more sales. So I think that goes to show that no lead is ever dead. Um, and moving towards where we're at now, um, my lead flow is I probably do like about 1,000 a week at least on leads, and I'm also giving leads to new agents as well, whether that's my old leads, whether that's kind of newer IUL leads. We also run kind of our own campaigns as well for final expense.
Yeah.
But lead flow is the biggest thing. I kind of correlated. It's a three prong of being successful in this business. It's either, you have to work hard, you have to have lead flow, as well as skill. So if either three of those is lacking, that is what you want to work on. So sometimes people are, they're hard workers. They kind of got the scripts down pretty well, but they don't want to spend too much on leads. So then when they're like, hey, why am I not writing as much? I kind of put up my three fingers, probably pisses people off a little bit. And I'm like, which one are you lacking in? I'm like, I think you're a really hard worker. And they'll agree with me. And then I go, I think you know what you're saying. And we could always get better, of course, but it's got to be this one then. So that's an easy way to break down why am I not where I want to be, and which one can I truly get better at. And that's when you also have to be honest with yourself as well.
Yeah. That was good. And that kind of leads to what I was trying to get to, because Dom, I wanted to kind of get your story going. They have them understand that, and then move into more sales. Every little detail, literally the lead type, what I was talking to you before. But I wanted to wrap up that is Dom quickly, since we saw each other 10 months ago, then goes and does 10,000, recruits these guys that he knew from his previous job, just because he was just like, hey man, I remember I was like, just let them know and they're going to see your success, and then it's going to happen if they want it or not, right? And then soon after that, now they're doing about 150,000 in premium. And so if you guys think about that, we're all trying to get to a point where you have like sustainable income without, like, Dom, we were trying to have you on the call, right? And then you had to take off.
Yeah.
You're getting paid while your team was working, and obviously you've helped them get to where they're at, right? It wasn't that to some degree,
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing with that is whenever I'm bringing people on or anyone's kind of joining us, the biggest thing, and I make this very clear, is if you want someone to succeed that you're bringing on, you need to invest time into them. That's the biggest thing. So when I kind of explain, because it is important about the business to explain overrides and how that can work in their favor as well, you explain that, what am I sacrificing? I'm sacrificing my time. So pouring more time into people that are starting out will get them going faster. You could throw someone a script and kind of put them in a corner. But truly, if they are going to succeed and succeed fast, it's that one-on-one time. It's hearing them on the call, whether that's on Zoom, unmuting and actually hearing them and, hey, run it again. Hey, you did really good on this part. I think you should improve kind of your opening there, or something like that. We're lucky enough to have this office space here, so I can kind of be around everyone at the same exact time, which it makes it a lot easier, obviously, but needless to say, time is the most important factor in getting someone started.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Because honestly, there's nothing like you can have an admin do and say what you wanted them to say, but the way you care for your agent, you can see all the different angles. So that's sweet, dude. Let's dive into all sales now. Last 30 minutes, which is basically like you're saying. So when you go and talk to an agent, let's say lead flow, let's say a perfect agent, because I think there's agents here that are maybe in a spot where they have no money at all, and they're like, dude, give me the old leads and I'll do my best. We'll talk about that. But let's say someone that said, hey, I want to do, what would you say, set my expectations. How do you set a perfect agent to start? Do I need $1,000, $2,000? What would be your recommended lead flow for a starting agent? How many dials would you say they should make out of that? I know you guys used to be working bronze leads. I want to catch up on all that.
Oh yeah.
For a new agent.
Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest part about what they should be spending is there's no number you could truly put on it. It's what are they comfortable with? And then once you ask them what they're comfortable with, you don't want to be comfortable. So you want to go a little bit past that and into that uncomfort zone. You could give someone free leads and free everything all the time, but then they have no skin in the game. They have no reason to want it more. So there's a very fine line of giving too much and not giving enough. So I kind of feel people out based off of how much they have coming into it. If they are coming into it with some money, or if it's a little tight, they're like, listen, I want to make this work. And then I could always work with them. There's always ways to make sure someone can succeed, and it's not about lead flow. It's not about money. I never want that to be the reason why someone isn't making enough dials or isn't getting the success that they want. So I never want that to be lead flow. So I personally work out in some sort of way, whether it's writing me in a little bit, and I give more leads or just suggesting what lead types. So with that being said, we do run our own campaigns with Final Expense. So how that kind of works is AJ's kind of a wizard with the Final Expense leads, and we do it per slot. So in order to have a slot on, it's $350 for the week. So personally, I'll have like 3 slots at a time, and so will everyone else. So as the new leads come in fresh off of Facebook, we are receiving them based on who is paying for that week. So that is
Right.
one of our main sources of leads. We also are getting into IULs. IULs are huge. We all see Digna putting up those numbers. So we are trying to figure out those as well. Our biggest reason why we haven't been getting into IULs before that, in all honesty, was we were way overthinking it. We wanted to know every in and out of the product, how to pitch it, what to say, what it looks like, how it works. And at the end of the day, the script we have is literally 1 page. And I got it from Zach Twardowski, and it is the simplest script ever. And that's all you really need to do. You need to simplify it. You don't need to give every in and out, explain every possible situation. You just need to keep it simple. So that's what we've been working on
Yeah.
newly with the IULs.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. So for a new agent, you would say you're 1 slot minimum to try to get you in there, or you're trying to feel them out and be like, well, how much can you put towards the slot, right? Get them
Yeah.
going. And then in terms of then a metric, do you have them, have a metric? How do you set expectations? How much they need to work that, because let's say you put in less, you got to work way more. Whereas like you came in with 1,000, you might be able to have 2 days and be effective. How do you
Yeah,
set that
so
expectation?
So it's definitely kind of like your KPI tracker. We don't exactly use that same metric, but our CRM that we use tracks all the dials that happen. So we are looking, around like 300 dials a day at least. But it's more so kind of result driven as well. I mean, if I'm kind of helping someone out with leads or something, and they are producing, they are writing, oh, I just made another sale off of it, and like they keep rolling with it, and I could tell they're excited and working hard, I will be more inclined to want to help them more. Now, with
Yeah.
that being said, if I help them out and then I don't see them for a week, that's kind of like, huh? Like that's a little weird. But that will make me less inclined to want to help someone. So I think it's very much effort based, not as much of you know, success driven, I guess not as much, but I want to
Yeah.
see the efforts being put in.
No, that makes perfect sense. Because obviously over time, the effort will then follow
Exactly.
and you'll have success. Now,
Yeah.
Dom, so that's good. And that makes sense, honestly, because obviously everyone comes at a different position and it's all based off of like activity. Doesn't matter how much money you have, as you can make it up with activity. Now, going more, you just sold what, like 25,000, right? This
Yeah.
month. Let's go. That's fire. Put a 25 in here for Dom. And then maybe this is gonna be like, I have a couple guys in here that are very curious how we can get, those numbers ourselves, right? And now you guys have a variety of people hitting those numbers. You said 300 dials. Kind of want to get into just a vocab. You guys are doing final expense leads and then transitioning into IULs, right?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Okay. Do you have your script in front of you? I want you to like kind of get us through your guys's final expense intro, and just hear you do it. And then I might give you some rebuttals. I just want to get that training. There's people on here that have never really even done it yet. So I'm just
Yeah,
like,
of
watch,
course.
watch, watch how they do it. It's really similar to what we do. But I want him to do it. So let's do it.
I don't think I need a script, but I think I'm ready
You can just run
whenever.
it.
Yep.
All right, you can go, and then you can keep me as much out of it as possible. I'll just engage as much as you want me to. You can just run
All
it.
right. Hey, Diego.
Yeah.
Hey, Diego, how's it going? This is Dominic with the benefits program here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad I finally got a hold of you here. Diego, like I said, my name's Dominic, and it looks like the reason I'm reaching out to you here in the first place is I see a little while ago you put a request into my office. It looks like it was just for the Florida discounted life insurance programs at the time. You
Yeah,
put your best address down here. Let me see. It looks like it was the 408
I don't
West
remember doing
Ave.
any of that, Dom.
Oh, of course.
Appreciate the call.
And I don't remember what I had last night for breakfast, honestly. So I completely understand that. But the reason that we're looking out here, it looks like you put your beneficiary down as Jesse. So I guess who is Jesse to you?
Well, it's my son.
Awesome.
Now,
So you
how
just
much
kind of
is
want
this?
to get something in place for him?
Yeah. Now I don't have time for this right now. I'm in the middle of
Oh,
cooking.
of course. So it only takes a few minutes to see if you even qualify for anything here. Now, just remember, I'm getting back to the request that you put in. Now, I just want to be able to help you. Would there be a better time later if you are in the kitchen right now? I completely understand that.
Yeah, call me in 30 minutes. I should be done here.
Okay, so I'm actually booked up in 30 minutes, helping another family out. I could squeeze you in for maybe 10 minutes around 4 o'clock. Would that work better?
Yeah, call me then. That's fine.
All right, awesome. And remember, my name's Dominic. You're not gonna forget about me, are you?
No, you can call me. I'll be ready.
All right, perfect. We'll talk to you then.
Boom.
Hopefully you're making something good.
Dude, I love that. And what that tells me, Dom, is you're buying obviously $1,000 worth of leads. And that's a huge difference to some people that are getting started. Dom, how long did it take you to spend $1,000 in leads like in 1 week?
Oh, pretty quick. Um, so I'll kind of buy them in the beginning of the week and kind of go through them.
Or when you
Um,
got started, I meant like from the get-go. Did you do a
oh,
thousand for
oh
the
my
first week?
my goodness. No, I was doing it like 1,000 in a month. So I would hear people say 1,000 a week, and I'm like, that's crazy. I don't know how anyone could ever do that. And honestly, last month too, I checked because I track everything. I feel like you gotta
Mhm.
track your kind of data in order to know any metrics. So I spent 5,500 in leads last month. So I am tracking everything on that. So sometimes it's a little bit more than 1,000 a week as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I always tell people as well because I show them that sheet as well. And I always say I did not start with that. I started with like 250 a week, and that was
Right.
even very uncomfortable for me at the time.
Right.
But I knew it took kind of like the three prong. It took the leads in order to be successful in this. So I knew that was
Yeah.
the sacrifice I had to make. And also when my back was kind of against the wall, spending more than I could at that time, I knew I needed to make it work, not because I wanted to, because I needed
Yeah.
to. Um,
No, that's great.
but yeah,
That's sweet. And it's I wanted to ask how long it took because as much as, $1,000, some people are in here doing $2,000 a week and it's like nuts, you know.
yeah,
But it does take a while. You build your confidence, like you were saying, your skills become better, and then you're able to then spend more because you have more money, which also, brings your confidence up. And and then from there you become a better worker because you're consistently callous to dialing the phone way more often. You're not.
exactly. And
It's
I
exciting.
never, you also don't want to, because in the beginning I was buying more leads than I had to, essentially, but I never wanted to feel like I was spinning my wheels, I guess you could say. I didn't want to just be keep calling, keep calling, keep calling and not have kind of slow yourself down. You're not writing as much because the easy ones aren't in there. So
Yeah.
also with new leads coming in all the time, you're able to put up the bigger numbers because you're getting those easier sales. It's not the I've called this guy 10 different times and I think I'm gonna get him this time. A
Yeah.
lot of the stuff we're doing, it's one call close. So it's the
Yeah.
first time we talk with them as well, which I don't know if that's the case with everyone, but a lot of the stuff is one call close as well.
Yeah. No, that's really great. And now when I want to dive in maybe more on the close when you're helping these guys so it can stay persistency, it stays on the books. How do you finish your call for the final expense? Because it's a different sale than mortgage protection. You know what I mean? You got people that
Oh
are
yeah.
seniors. And I know our team is, we've trained them up on mortgage. And that's why I was really excited to have you on here because we have people like Tyler who's going from in-home to final expense virtual. There's a
Yeah.
huge market in that. I think you guys are killing it, and I think it's admirable. So how are you closing out the sale? Are there any additional tips inside of there, maybe soft closes that you guys are making sure you say? Because that was the introduction. How do you then flow through it? One thing too, Dom, is on this call, I usually say people watch this again and they love hearing you do it. So it's even if it sounds long and lame, it's going to be super great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Yeah, no, I'll kind of go through it. So, and I'll kind of go through common rebuttals as well, or common objections, I guess you could say. So,
Yeah.
as we're going through with final expense in specific, you're dealing with older people. So it's 60 to 89 essentially.
Mhm.
So they are a little sometimes hard of hearing. So you got to speak up, always speak up. And a big thing that we run into, especially over the phone, is you kind of present your numbers, you quote them out after asking health questions, and they say, okay, I'll have to ask my wife, or okay, got it, I'll think about it. So rather than kind of combating them on the I'll think about it, be like, what do you have to think about? That's what we always want to jump to. I think is the take it head on. Okay, let me figure out what they actually have to think about. And really, it's kind of a smoke and mirror. They just kind of are uneasy about something. And unless you could figure out if it's price or if they actually don't know if they need it, it's all smoke and mirrors. I'll think about it. So what we kind of do is rather than disagreeing with them and kind of pressing them about it, it's more so of a, oh, of course, you definitely need to think about this. I want to help you with that. So, oh, you need to talk to your wife? Of course, you guys are a team. So what we're gonna do is we go through a quick application. It takes 5 to 8 minutes, and then once we know we get you approved, they're gonna mail out a paper packet to you. So you and your wife can look everything over, make sure it's everything I said it was, and also make sure that you actually need this in place. Does that make sense? And then
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, okay. And then boom, that gets you into the application. So that is
Right.
the easiest way to, when you feel like they don't want to hop into an application, just kind of agree with them. Be like, yo, yeah, I completely understand. This is a big decision. Well, let's kind of help you with that.
Right.
So that's one of the objections we get often.
Right.
Now, as we're going through the sale, there's going to be two friction points. It's the social objections and the banking. So when I was first starting off, I would go right in there. I had no idea what I was doing. Just give me your social security number. Crazy question. So we've kind of figured out a better word tracking on how to get that information. So rather than asking for it up front, you want to stack all the yeses right before. So you want to, get every other piece of information on that page that you can. Oh, this is your best phone number. Okay, this is still the best mailing address. Uh, and then we said you were born in Florida, correct? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So born in Florida, obviously you're a US citizen.
Yeah.
Perfect. And go ahead with that social for me
Three,
and
two,
just flow
one.
right into it. It, never freaks anyone out. And if they do kind of hesitate and give you the what, like, oh, I don't do that. It's like, oh, I completely understand. So the reason that they ask for that there is just to pull the MIB report, make sure everything you told me about your health is correct and accurate, and that they actually and that this is actually you as well. And then you always want to go silent right after that. The silence allows them to read it off to you. So a lot of times you
Right.
go silent right after that, and then you just start hearing those magical numbers. And it's like,
Right.
phew, and then you kind of, reciprocate it again. So like I said, the only reason that they're asking for this is for the MIB report. Now we're moving on to the next page. Very
Right.
casual, nothing's a big deal. If you make something a big deal, it's a big deal for them.
Right.
And then moving into the banking, uh, you always want to recap what you're doing. So rather than, okay, now we're on a banking page, or just right out the gate, who do you bank with? They can't see your page. So they don't know that you're onto the banking page. So rather than them kind of reading your mind, you want to recap. So just to recap here, we're trying to get you approved with Mutual of Omaha for the $10,000 worth of whole life coverage. It's going to come out to exactly 6709 on the dot. That will never increase in the future. And then you kind of like make them realize, okay, I'm getting a product. I know
Right.
how much it is. And then who do you do your banking through? So it's, what am I getting? How much is it? How am I going to pay for it? That can
Right.
correlate in people's minds a lot better than just going right in for banking.
Right.
So that's kind of how you get that. We can
Yeah.
pull up the routing right on the computer, not too crazy.
Yeah.
Then getting to concreting the sale. We kind of do a thing, and every one of us does it in the office. We go, I got good news and bad news. Which one do you want first?
Oh
And then
no.
they kind
Give
of
me the
always get
bad
upset
news.
and they're like, oh, it's like, The bad news is it looks like I was right. You're gonna be stuck with me for life because I got you approved for the 10,000. Congratulations. And you make it a huge deal. You make
That's
them
awesome.
want to jump up and down.
Yeah.
And that makes them remember the process.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of psychology is what I've kind of realized. Selling is all just a psychological game. So if you
Right.
can make them realize like, wow, this is exciting, why would they
Yeah.
want to get rid of something that's exciting? So that
Right.
builds your persistency. And then as soon as you kind of give them the excitement, you recap as well. Now, like I said, my name is Dominic. I'm going to be your agent for life. So I just shot you over a text from that 315 number. That is my personal cell number. I always make that a huge deal. That's my personal cell number. I get
Yeah.
back to everybody instantly, if not within 24 hours. What does that say there?
And they asked in here, are you reading the chat? Do you let them know they're approved right away? Or you wait a day or two?
I let them know right away.
Yeah.
I tend not to wait a day or two. I've heard that is better for kind of making it, I guess, making it a bigger deal and not seem like such a simple process. But I like
Yeah.
to give them the good news right then and there, kind of with me
Yeah.
on the phone so I can recap everything. And more so to concrete it, I will send
Yeah.
over a nice overview text as well. So I send over an overview text, states their carrier, whole life, the amount,
Yeah.
the start date, recurring, just everything that they will need so they don't feel lost. Because another thing that can happen is buyer's remorse. So after
Mhm.
they get it, an hour or two later, they're like, shoot, like, why did I do that? I need to get rid of that. So
Yeah.
rather than them feel that they're uninformed on what they just got, you want to make them feel as informed as you possibly can. So that small text goes a long way as well. But as far as concreting
Dude.
it, that's pretty much it right there.
Yeah. And now let's say you have leads. You guys have the CRM. Are you guys calling them 3 times? If we wanted to duplicate this and we had, one of these guys was like, what do I ask Dom? Like, what are they doing? Are you guys triple calling them after you get them and then texting them? Do you text them and then call them?
Yeah, so we were doing a lot of text blasting with bronzes when we were doing more so bronzes. Now we got a new CRM that's more call based. So it's very quick to make calls on it. So we
Mhm.
can hit the same people. It doesn't even have to be a double dial. We do sometimes, but it can go through so many dials that it's almost like you're hitting them again later in the day. Um, Now I'll give you the CRM name, but it's something that we had specially made. Apparently it's for like call centers. And one of the guys in the office, his dad does a lot of business with them. So they were able to make us an account. So it's like an absurd
Nice.
amount of money to start an account like that. But we were very lucky to have that. But the biggest thing about it is it's localized touch. So what that means is if you call, a 346 number, it shows that you're calling from a 346 number. So
Yeah.
there are other I believe there's other CRMs that do that as
Right.
well. I think on Ringy you could do it as well if you
Yeah.
buy the extra package or something. You could have multiple
Right.
numbers on there. But that is a huge kind of tip
Yeah.
to get more people to answer, especially if you're calling all over the US, I guess.
Right. That's huge, Dom, because honestly,
Yeah.
even we can't get what you have just hearing it. We have our own,
Yeah.
people have their own in here too. But I know there's smart ID inside of the Ringy where you just turn it on and it'll call from that specific zone.
Yes. Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, no, this is great. And so then that makes sense when you're calling them so many times. It's just getting as many calls. So you're basically really hammering, hey, John, we need 300 calls. I mean, that's why you're not getting the results. One is checking that box and then
Mhm.
obviously improving the skill and then reflecting how much did we spend on the week. That's
Exactly.
awesome. So
Yeah.
simple because that's just literally the business, right? That's very simple.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I wish there was some like perfect trick to selling 30,000, 25,000 a month, but it really is just the hard work. We're in this office
Yeah.
probably 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Some of the guys just left when this call was starting. So it really is just the hard work. And even when you don't want to do it, especially when you don't want to do it, because that's when a
Yeah.
lot of us will stop. Like I'm not feeling it today. Let me pick it back up tomorrow. If you can work through those days that you're really not feeling it, you will be so much better. just because of the repetition, the doing it over and over. It almost makes it like you can't do bad in a sense.
Definitely. And
But
Dom, are
yeah,
you splitting your time to train your agents anyway, or is it not needed yet?
oh, definitely. You're saying like away from my selling?
Do you say, yeah, or do you dial from 8 to 2 and then help your agents in the afternoon? Do you have a routine like that?
Not, I wouldn't, I need more of a routine, I would say. But overall, I'm just ready to go whenever anyone needs help.
Yeah.
I think a big tip though is when I was starting recruiting, especially, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. If someone was like, "Hey, my battery's low," I would go and run over and like plug in their laptop. Like I was very over the top with it. And since then, I've realized you do have to dial back. You have to let them figure stuff out because in the end, I had to figure stuff out. And I think that's why it's made me understand more. So I'm almost taking that away from them if I'm trying to do everything.
Right.
Um, with that being said, if someone does need help, it's good to empower others on your team that have, either been there a little bit or they understand what they're doing as well. Um, it's good to let them take over as well. You don't have to be the one person that knows everything. You don't have to be the know-it-all. If others can do it, let them do
Mhm.
it because teaching other people is just another way to learn for yourself and kind of just regurgitate the info you already know and
Yeah.
reconfirm it.
No, that makes sense. And Derek's question there, how would you
Yeah.
train someone like, hey, they want to not do it right now because the guy, like earlier in the example, we're eating. How do you know how do you train an agent's mindset to knowing like, do I do it now? Do I wait? You know,
So honestly, what we've realized, because I used to be big on setting appointments, I would set so many appointments, and then I'd have a list of all these names, and I would highlight which ones didn't answer. And at the end of the day, I would have a list of all highlighted names because the reality is, as soon as someone goes off the phone, your chances of selling them plummet. So whether it's, I'm driving, and if anything, you want to do it before the process. I never really like halfway through. Kind of make sure it's a good time for them before giving any numbers, before getting into anything. And then if they do try and break away, you want to do anything and everything in your power to keep them on that phone. Whether they hang up on you, that's honestly a little bit better than setting an appointment, numbers wise at
makes
least.
sense.
So not big on appointments. That's why a lot of the sales are one call close,
Right.
as well.
No, and that's very common, Dom. I know Tyler's getting into the, virtual telesale, call to close. Well, I actually I'm getting a lot more into the FX because it's like you don't have to even set up anything later. You're just doing the job
Yeah.
right there and then. And another thing too, it's awesome how you guys are doing immediate drafts, or at least letting them get approved right away. If you're brand new to the call, that just means that basically Dom doesn't even have to call the client back. Like he already knows they got the approval, the policy number. It is just now like extra of him to call them and give them, congratulations, your policy did go through, your payment went through, you know.
Yeah.
That's great. We're basically wrapped up now. Dom, I want to talk on the very end. As you were getting in there, what was like your toughest days? Like what are things that everyone's gonna, to make them be like, this is the reality to become where you went? What are some things that we don't know, things that you had to go through? And we'll kind of let them go through that and you can let them have their last kind of like hopefully motivate them in a sense, but like give them the realism of what they had to overcome to be like you.
Yeah, so someone showed me recently, I think it was Alex Hormozy that did it. It was a graph, and I don't know how to explain it, but it was basically um uninformed optimism is what the graph is about. So it kind of shows a graph that goes up, it reaches a peak, and then comes down, reaches kind of a plummet, and then back up if you want to draw it to make it make sense. So yeah, there we go. So right in the beginning there, before you reach the peak, that is the uninformed optimism. So that is before you get started, you're like, wow, all these people are making so much money. This is so awesome. Like I'm so excited. And you think there's nothing wrong with it, nothing could ever go bad. And then you make a few sales and you reach that peak and you're like, what? Like I'm doing it. This is great. This is awesome. And then you stop getting sales or you have a bad week. And that is kind of the around the curve of like, wow, this is not perfect. This isn't exactly what I thought it was. This is a little difficult. And then that's when you had the decision. That's when you could leave and do something else. And then it starts all back over. Or you can get past that point and you're back up on the rise. So you kind of realize, okay, this isn't perfect. There are flaws, but I can make this work. And that's how you get past it rather than repeating it with another option. So that's how a lot of people kind of bounce around. Oh yeah, I did this for a month, and then I did this for a month, and now I'm doing this. It's going really well. It's kind of perfect. That's how everyone thinks, and kind of like the same thing of like the grass is greener. So if you just stick through with it, stick through the bad, the good, bad, and the ugly, you will eventually reach the higher point. Yeah, there we go. So I don't know if you can kind of pinpoint where you are on this graph. But I was going through it yesterday, and yeah, when I was kind of at that 2 and 3, that was when I was driving around, going to all these appointments, and no one was answering, and I was basically working all day to lose money. So that was my tough point of like, do I see this through or do I quit? And rather than quitting, I ended up going to Arizona, going to that lock-in. And then I realized, especially learning from other people like you, Diego, and Desi and Tyler, I learned that, okay, there is some bad in this business, but they're making it work. I can do the same thing. So that's kind of the pushing through those terrible times, knowing that there's better.
Yeah, that's good, Dom. That's really good, dude.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I hope that wherever people are at, can identify it. And one of our principles, Dom, we say be transparent. Be transparent with yourself. Let your upline know. I think that's always great when I hear from my people and they let me know. And so, Dom, I thank you so much, man. This has helped our agency. I think that's what I love about this business, guys. I always, in a sense, I'm like, I really want to compete with Dom. At the end of the day, it's so cool. Like he's helping us, and it's like I would do the same thing for his group. It's really one big team going in the same direction, and I hope that hit a certain spot for you guys. Dom, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate all you guys and just being able to share. This is my first time really hopping on something like this. So it's a good
Dude,
start.
you honestly killed it, dude. Authentic, the whole thing. It's gonna be recorded. I'm pumped, man. I appreciate you. Really. Go get some rest, you beast.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
bro.
bro. Take care.
Of course.